Welcome to the New Dad Rock. Hey, Steve.
Thanks for welcoming me to the New Dad Rock, Keith. So it was such a good day. Like, I worked from home. It was beautiful and sunny, and the office closed at 1, so that was a bonus. Iron Maiden Senjutsu, their first album in 6 years, came out last night at midnight, so I had that to listen to.
Nice.
And then, because I had the bonus free afternoon, I went out and bought a new pair of ski boots, and I'm like, this is great. I'm on top of the world. Meanwhile, my wife is getting, like, shovels of work dumped on her. So she's miserable. And meanwhile, I'm, like, on cloud 9. I got new ski boots. I got a new Iron Maiden album in my headphones. And she's, like, blowing up. And then finally she finishes that up, and we go out with our friends that have a boat. They took us out. We go out into the Great South Bay. 100 yards. We're like, oh, which beach should we go? It's so beautiful. Engine dies. So we are like just stuck right there. Fortunately, very close, a couple 100 yards off of.
How'd you get back?
We end up calling a friend and getting towed in,
sure.
holding the rope. And then that brought us back. And then I just ran around and picked up my kids.
Yeah, that's actually the perfect dad right there. You rock, man.
The New Dad Rock.
Wait, tell me about Iron Maiden. Good, bad, ugly?
Look, Iron Maiden was a certain style of band until 1988. And then Bruce Dickinson left the band, and then they became a different entity led by Steve Harris. And they had these long, monotonous, drudgery, sometimes beautiful and fantastic and, ecstatic songs. But a lot of it was like doing math homework. And that's been their style really for the last 20 plus years. So when you ask me how it is, it's exactly how I'd expected it. There are a couple songs that are brilliant. There are a couple songs that have some really cool parts. And a lot of it you recognize from their other albums. And a lot of it you're like, why do you just keep playing the same thing over again? It's good for what it is. It's not going to become a massive crossover hit, but it's enjoyable. And I'll listen to it.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to summarize the Drake album, which also came out today or last night. It sounds like what he's done before. It's well done. It's new songs. Super excited. I mean, but I like the Kanye album better by a lot.
Interesting. Right. So, but they've got a little bit of a feud going on these days, huh?
Apparently. I mean, I wish we had Cole around. We could ask him because I'm not sure I understand it all. But yeah, those two albums just came out. So Iron Maiden came out, Drake came out, and then I haven't heard yet, but I think Lady Gaga came out with something today too.
I've never heard a Lady Gaga album. Have you?
She had those big hits off the first or second albums that I heard all the time.
I know the hits. I've heard those too, but I've never sat down and listened to a Lady Gaga album. Although I know she is a big Iron Maiden fan, by the way.
Is she? Well, then it sounds like you're the one who's going to have to do that. Either that or we invite someone on to tell us about Lady Gaga. I don't know any super fans of Lady Gaga.
They're not called super fans. They're called Little Monsters.
Okay, see, she even has a special name for her super fans. What about Tool fans? What do you call a Tool fan?
I think they're called handymen.
Oh, that's brilliant. That's smart. I really like that. I was actually going to ask you a question. What should I do with all my CD cases? Or even all my CDs?
Do you have anything to play them on?
Yes, I have 4 different things to play them on. 2 car stereos.
So the answer is yes.
Yes.
You can play CDs.
Yeah, it's cars.
So you want to keep some, but can you get, do they still sell those, magazine things where you put 4 on and then you can still...
I already do that. I have 6 to 8 of those cases already. I think they're probably 40 to 100
so now
each.
You want to know what to do with the old cases.
No, I got rid of most of the cases. What I have left is I have 15 Olivia Tremor Control CDs, weird singles, live things.
Oh,
I have
15 things that you would actually want to have.
And it's hard to find, and you can't replicate, I don't think. Or I have 15 things from John Dwyer.
I mean, do you want them? You might be able to sell them on eBay or Amazon or some other.
Oh, that's interesting.
Discogs.
Yeah, I see.
I was going to say, when you're looking back at those CDs, it just makes you think back to how you found all those albums and what you used to listen to and the people you were hanging out with. And part of the new dad rock is going back and remembering those things and trying to bring back the obscure things. So
I'm looking for music like that. Like, how do I get into a band like that has like, this is like Olivia Tremor Control. They have multiple albums out, and like back then I was finding them live, so you'd have to wait for the music, and that made me kind of anxious. But like sometimes, like when I was younger, like there's bands you'd get into a band, but it'd be like album number 8, so you'd have all this back catalog to go after. Like finding bands now like that would be cool. Like, is there a band that you say has, I don't know, 5-10 albums that I probably haven't really heard that like I should listen to?
Well, we did that whole episode with the, well, not the whole episode, but we talked about Coco Rosie. Do you remember?
Yeah.
And that was one. And for me, the OCs, I remember you talking about for years, and I never got into them until maybe like 2017. But do you know Liars? Do you know them?
No. Oh, no, I do. You sent me a CD. I think it was like late 2000s. It's one of the CDs. It's a handwritten CD. So the CD you sent me, I put it in my car. What came out around then? 2007?
2007 would have been like their self-titled.
Liars, I think.
Their self-titled album was called Liars. It was their 4th album. So I guess...
Oh,
you know,
that's funny.
And a lot of bands do their self-titled as their first.
Yeah, that would make sense.
For Liars, it was their 4th album. And if you know Liars at all, which apparently you don't, it makes perfect sense because, one, it makes sense because every album is like a debut album. They all sound pretty unique and apart from one another. But they started out in 2001, 2002 or so. But they were lumped in with like the dance punk scene, like Chick 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 and Yeah Yeah Yeahs, and
maybe they were playing the same bills. Like what we don't know about the New York scene then, right? I mean, we can look it up, I'm sure, but is like maybe they're lumped in because that it makes sense that the same people would listen to all that music.
It could also be that Angus Andrew, the singer and only remaining member of Liars, was dating Karen O from Yeah Yeah Yeahs. So.
Oh, yeah, that would help.
That helps. Rumor has it that song Maps is about him. Anyway.
Oh, interesting. That's a great song. I love that song.
So, you know, Iron Maiden was fine. Drake was fine. What other new albums have come out recently that have been good? I mean, I really enjoyed the Liars album that came out about a month ago. It came out, I guess, more than that, at the beginning of August. Called The Apple Drop.
Yeah. So there's 2 songs that came out before that, right? And one of them I had like saved or liked, and I didn't even know it was a Liar song. I listen to it all the time. Sedwar or Segwar. I love that song. That's how I think about Liars. I know that's not only their sound, but that's the sound I associate with them because I'd heard Liars, the album, 2007, because the CD you sent me. And I had bought The Mess, which is weird. It's possibly the last CD I bought in like 2013 or 14. And I like the first couple songs.
How did you like Mess? I really liked that one. Liars, they have a different sound for every album. So
some have way more different sounds because all of a sudden they're using computers. That's true. Mm-hmm. But like, I mean, I just don't see many artists, besides maybe Kanye, really, where they put out an album and you can legitimately be like, yeah, that's different. And even Kanye is probably not as far out of pocket as you think. But yeah, I listened to the Liars' first couple albums when we were talking about them. And I like the first album a lot.
Well, the first album,
I thought that was pretty amazing.
Yeah, the first album, what other album of theirs sounds like that? That first album is almost like it's dance punk, excuse me.
Well, punk. Totally of the era then. If you really think about this, if you're saying they put out 8 or 9 albums over 20-something years, it's like one every 3 years. There's totally eras of music and sound, like preferred recording equipment, beats, even tempo, I bet. But yeah, that's a good era for music.
But they went from that in like 2003. That was like the era that I was reviewing albums for Splendid Magazine.
I see.
Splendid Ezine. But then their second album, they go and explore witches in Salem and witch trials and witchcraft, and they recorded that in Berlin.
Oh no, I think they recorded the Drum's Not Dead there. Witch Hunting, the They Were Wrong, So We Drowned album was recorded March through May of 2003, released February 2004. The band relocated to a cabin in the woods of New Jersey for the recording sessions. However, and then Berlin Days comes after that. The band relocated once again to Berlin where they... Oh, maybe they'd been there before. You might be right also, sorry. They would eventually record their third full-length, Drum's Not Dead. Recorded in 2004, released in 2006.
We went from 2002 to 2006. They did a dance punk album. Mm-hmm. They did this droney, like, witch house, like, dark, almost industrial sounding, and droney at the same time. They Were Wrong, So We Drowned. And then their third album, Drum's Not Dead, is very percussive and very, very abstract, and very percussive, very abstract, very dissonant. But all three of those taken together are very different sounds, a lot of which they explore, and maybe that's why their fourth album is called Liars. It took those 3 albums of growth to come through, and then Liars maybe introduced them on the fourth album, because the fourth album, self-titled Liars, is very... It's the easiest to digest. If you've never heard of Liars and you want to check them out, start with that album.
Really?
I think so, because I think, you have a song like Plaster Cast of Everything. It does have a little bit of that pulsating dance punk sound, but it also has, Liars has this tendency to have this screaming, like, their soul might be being sucked out. It's very sinister, but you want to be welcomed into it. It's a little bit scary, like riding a roller coaster or seeing a horror movie.
Yeah, I don't know. I love the sound. It's definitely unique for our listeners. Like, for all listeners who listen to all the episodes, like, this is definitely a band that stands on its own, that has its own, like, catalog. Is it like 8-10 albums or whatever, over 20 years? They're different songs. You can turn on any album, be good. It's kind of like when I found Led Zeppelin or whatever. Like, they're all good. What I liked about the first one, though, is that last song, This Dust Makes the Mud. That Mud. Mm-hmm. It was one of those lock groove ones where, like, on the CD or recorded digital version, it's 30 minutes long, but on a record, it was like the last track, and it was a lock groove. So
it just went on. Like Keith said, across their career, they've put out quite a catalog, and I would almost compare them to Radiohead. They kind of have an avant-garde sound, but they're still accessible, but not really.
Yeah,
but it's still poppy. In a weird way, it's there to be digested.
Yeah, I think it's where you're approaching it from. I think that's a very good point. Like, I think you'd be turned off for 2 different reasons. One is like the dance punk, like the fun part of it, like the non-guitar or the electronic or just the part that makes it different is so awesome. But you could also be coming from the dancey side of the equation and being like, it's too indie or something. I'm just saying it's got like 2. It's unique, which is awesome.
And the banshee wails can be very disorienting.
Okay, actually, this is interesting. The Liars is good for background music. So, like, for Liars, when I listen to Liars, I don't put it on a song. I just put on an album and I listen to the whole thing, and it becomes background noise, which is cool. Like, my mind's thinking. That's why I mean it's background. So the banshee wails are okay in that aspect. But sometimes as artists, you put on for songs and specific songs. And, like, this is not that band.
You put them on for a sound or a mood or a feeling.
It's a mood.
I'm like, I want to listen to Liars. I never go for a specific song. I don't jump in.
Totally.
And I might pick an album because I might say Sister World, which 2010. That's another great album, Sister World. That was from their LA era. That's another good one. Wish You, Wixiw. That is one of my less favorite.
Wait, how do you say that? Wixu?
Wish You.
Oh, that's awesome. It's like spelled, like you said, capital letter W-I, capital I, W-I-X-I-W in all capital letters.
Yeah.
But it's Wish You?
Yeah. And I think that at that point, that came out, I think, around 2011, 2014, I guess it came out. And it sounded like they were trying to... They'd been listening to a lot of Radiohead and they were trying to catch up. And it was that electronic blip blop of the creepiness of later day Radiohead, Johnny Greenwood, Tom York, that stuff.
It's like thinking about how the artist is inspired by other music going on around him. So that makes sense that like Radiohead could set the bar for that. Or even Tame Impala to some degree. Like, oh, I want to get more of my instrumentation done. I want more of this sound.
Right. Well, they did open up for Radiohead at least.
There you go.
Stadium
Okay.
tour. So they definitely interacted with them. And then by the time they put out Mess, which you ended up with getting that album. What do you think of that? That's I like that one. I enjoy that one.
Yeah, no, I think it's one. Yeah,
it's a little artier. Again, it's a challenging listen. You're not going to put this on. I can see people like, thank you for turning that off.
Yeah.
Anyway, their most recent one, the Apple Drop, which came out in again August of 2021.
Summer,
yeah, was I think an excellent return to form after TCFC, the Crying Fountain something or other, where that one the band had formed. Originally, it was 3 members. It came down to 2 members for the last couple albums, and then by the Crying Fountain, it was down to just Angus Andrew, and it just didn't work. It didn't put it together, and it took him a few years. He did some soundtrack work, and now he came back with the Apple Drop this year, and I think it's a really strong return to form. It's a sort of a concept album, a little bit of science fiction, an explorer kind of trapped in space, and it picks up in a couple of the songs. But I just love it. It's probably going to be on one of my year-end lists.
Yeah. Oh, I believe that. Hey, we're getting close, I guess. A couple months away before we do that episode.
What else have you been hearing a lot of buzz about this year?
I mean, Kanye and Drake were the biggest things for me, like for reals, like because they were supposed to all release earlier than this. So There was those. I came across this album Squid, which I think what happens is I've started doing this thing. How I find some new music these days is I just use Tidal. And now they just released a playlist like your most recent discovery or whatever. But before that, they just give me songs that are popular based on what I like. And I would look at the 50 songs. Like I would play the 50 songs, and that probably changes every week or two at some point. And I heard it, and I'll favorite a favorite song. And Squid came up. I bought tickets to Squid. They're playing the Rickshaw right before Thanksgiving.
It's not their first album. Is it their second album, maybe?
They're relatively new. They're pretty new.
This is the first I'm hearing of them, is the point. Yeah, so they're kind of a punkish band. Their singer is a little bit like a kind of more annoying James Murphy, the singer from LCD Sound System.
Yeah.
It's annoying, but it kind of grows on you because he is clever. It's deliberately repetitive and syncopated at times, and they always have a surprise in them.
Oh, there's definitely something. Okay, you were right. This is their first proper album. So,
okay.
Yeah, and it was released this year, 2021. They've been around for 3 or 4 years. They're an English band. Yeah, they're post-punk apparently, which I've always amused by, like post-punk versus experimental versus dance. Right. Yeah, whatever. But yeah, it was just fun to hear them. Like, how's this? I was surprised, right? It was great because it's an album. It's a band you've never heard before. You see it somewhere and you turn it on. A lot of times you turn it on, you forget, and time just passes. But this time, man, I listened to the whole album straight through twice in a row. I texted you that night, and then you're like, oh, I heard about them. I was like, oh, okay, whatever.
No, it was funny. Like, you had texted me that, and I think I had listened to the album for the first time, earlier that day or something.
Okay. Truth be told, I have not listened to them except for the 3 days I listened to them twice a day and bought the tickets. And then I stopped listening to them. And I don't think it's because I didn't like them. It's because I'm saving it now.
No, it's good. I mean, go back and listen to them because I did a similar thing. I listened to them for 2 weeks straight. But I just started putting it back into the rotation again recently. And another one that I found around the same time, and I think you told me about them, maybe Darren knew them. Darren, who was a guest on our show recently. with Barbara Streisand. Black Country New Road. They've been getting a little bit of a buzz, I think.
I think I like them better, but they're not touring, so I care less because I'm excited for the people who are coming around. Even if you're buying tickets like a year and a half out, like the King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard are playing. Yeah, like Berkeley in 2022 in October. So a year and a month from now. So yeah, right. Black Country. What's cool about them, they're considered an experimental band making fun of genres. They're from England though too, which is cool.
The Black Country?
But there's 7 people in the band. But why they sound like that, or if you've never heard them, and I used to make fun of writers writing about music, because how do you describe a sound? But like talking's not any better. But like there's 7 people in the band, so it's telling you instrumentation does help. One of them plays sax, super cool. One plays violin, really unique, and then keys, and then you have your rock musicians.
Their album, it's their debut album. It's only got 7 tracks, but they're all it's like a 40-minute album, so they're all long songs. And to me, they sounded almost like a proggy alt-J. Or like a manic acid jazz Nick Cave, or something along those lines. It was,
yeah. I mean, it's a band where I think of I grew up on Neutral Milk Hotel. Like, I mean, it doesn't sound like Neutral Milk Hotel, but like they have so many musicians in the band. The songs, can be improvisational.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure there's a big adoration for Neutral Milk Hotel and Aeroplane of the Sea in that band. So Black Country New Road, Squid, Liars, those have been our favorites a little bit more than the higher profile Drake and Kanye and Iron Maiden albums.
No,
right?
I love the Kanye album. Like I can't believe we don't have a Kanye episode.
Thanks for listening to.
We're the New Dad Rock,
rocking in the New Dad era. Rock. New Dad Rock.
Woo!
New Dad Rock. New Dad Rock.
Yeah, that's it.